Thanks once again for joining us for another interesting topic. Let's start with the ladies. Ladies, have you noticed that men age 45 and older has no firm joystick strength, or that and most now have prostate issues, cancer, not realizing it's the plastic in their gut? Please, we ask that the women, wives and ladies interested in me to start eating kimchi, buy the organic kimchi we produce. I personally eat kimchi every chance I get. Between the kimchi and love biome, I keep my gut clean. Your gut is your first brain. Women are having breast cancer, many are in bed wearing plastic underwears, lips, butt, bra, you name it, it all made from plastic and making you sick. Now you have the opportunity to reverse that sickness and kimchi. Try our organic kimchi. Our rotten cabbage is sweet, spicy and flavorful, so good for the stomach. Feeling bad, you can't see it, cause it is referred to as microplastics, and we are facing a toxic tidal wave in our food supply. Some recent reports show that microplastics have infested everything, our water supply, our food supply. You probably already know this. New reports indicate it circulates in our blood and has been found in 8 to 80% of the meat we consume, in our soil. It is in our products. They are quietly changing our biology. While we sit here, all these microplastic particles in our bodies are altering our biology. How does this affect us regarding fertility and age? The studies are alarming. Endocrine disruptors, inflammation, even death. So how can we protect ourselves? That's exactly what Desiree will break down extensively. Now Desiree is a pioneer in the world for her yoga practices and how by using real organic, natural health and nutrition to maintain a healthy body. You may know her well. She was truly decades ahead of her time. Desiree is the founder of Organic Foodie Emporium. Her new franchise of organic feed and nutrition for humans, animals and the best in seafood. The OFE stores are one of the original forces behind the health movement. Please welcome Desiree back to the show. Good to see you. Hello, Mr. Healthy Body, thanks for having me back. Always a pleasure. I want to bring receipts this time and want our audience to come along. Because how we protect ourselves is a real question. How do we protect ourselves? We will talk about how to protect our bodies, how to detox ourselves, how to eat in a world that is becoming increasingly toxic. We'll get into that shortly. But maybe we can just lay out what you are seeing in the environment right now. Could you, for example, create a list of the toxins we were exposed to in 2005? These dangers surround us everywhere. There is 5G, the cell towers. We are receiving more electric energy than ever before in the history of mankind. Pharmaceuticals, chemicals in our soil, our water, in the air we breathe, in RNA, vaccines, all these things flood us. But there is something even worse because you can't see it, microplastics. I want to ensure that everyone out there understands what microplastics really are. They are chemical polymers, fragments of chemical polymers that consist of these macromolecules. They form a chain and repeat over and over, creating very strong bonds that are almost indestructible. So when I speak of macroplastics, I mean a size of less than 0.5 centimeters, that's 53 centimeters down to 60,000 centimeters. Okay, that's tiny. Anything smaller is considered nano, which goes into millions and billions. So we're talking about things that are incredibly small and that we cannot see. But it's almost as if this is a genocide, as you said. And it is really present everywhere in abundance. You know, we are told to avoid plastic water bottles. As I sit here, my wife, when we were raising our little children, was very adamant and said let's use glass bottles, after she breastfed me and filled them in glass bottles and so on. She really made a huge effort to keep this type of plastic out of our house. But then you almost feel like Sisyphus trying to push a boulder up a hill, as it seems impossible because we are told to avoid plastic water bottles. But studies now show it is even in our tap water, it is even in rainwater. Are there even any water sources that are free of this stuff? Not really. I mean, even after all the processing they do to remove the stuff from our tap water, 63% of it is still there. And it's almost impossible to filter it out. It's almost impossible to filter it out. And speaking of baby bottles, until 2012, the nipples contained this plastic called BPA. Even if you use glass bottles, it has been leached into them. And if you warm them in the microwave, it intensifies it in the nipple. It's simply everywhere, in sippy cups and all those things. Parents must be very careful. We are simply bombarded with this stuff. And the other problem is that it's not only present in water globally but also in bottled water. Think of plastic bottles that sit outside after the trucks have delivered them, and then they are loaded in trucks and driven along the street while it's 38 degrees Celsius outside. The water is becoming increasingly contaminated with plastic. But what also happens also relates to our food supply. It's everywhere in the Arctic and Antarctic. It's in the deepest areas of our oceans. Our oceans are now so polluted with this stuff that it reaches all the way down into our food chain, down to the microbes. Wait a minute. Even in the Antarctic and the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, we find microplastics. My goodness, can you explain this? Well, let me say this. The microorganisms, science has proven, have their cellular systems disrupted since they can no longer absorb the amount of nutrients they could before. Let's take this now and go all the way up the food chain, clarifying, to the point where we are now eating the tissue of fish out of the water. We are consuming the tissues of meat at the end of the food chain, livestock, dairy products, all these things. Imagine how inundated with it your tissue is because you're not just coming up the food chain but the grass is being watered with all these fragments that have fallen from the sky. So we will be inundated everywhere we can imagine, and as you mentioned in the meats you conducted studies on, and not just in meat. It's also in tofu, it is in plant-based meats, up to 88% of those things had it in clothing. Clothing, plastic clothing, everyone thinks. Oh, we're doing so well, we recycle these plastic bottles and get them out of the oceans. We make shoes for your feet out of them, we make clothing for you out of them. Clothing that wicks water, whether you are hiking, wearing your yoga pants, or if men or women are wearing this plastic underwear that consists of these polymers. Heat makes these things stronger, and our skin absorbs more when we wear this type of clothing on our skin. Men are having reproductive issues, women are having reproductive issues. This is right next to where you reproduce, so think about wearing some white underwear, folks. And clothing manufacturers see men struggling with erectile dysfunction. They are investigating it because they inhale all these fragments daily. And then again, the atmosphere, every time they launch a rocket, they are all made of plastic, nanoplastics. And these microparticles fall into our atmosphere. They are dispersed all over the world. No, there are no boundaries here. And you know what I can't fathom? Elon Musk has 8,000 of the 12,000 active satellites up there, and he keeps sending more up. He's launching even more. How is it, again, on Sunday? And I actually looked at the sky, and the stuff stayed in these strange circles after the satellites were launched and flown up, and an hour later, it was still there. So what is the reason why he wants to fly to Mars so quickly? Something tells me that this planet is being made uninhabitable, and the few people will escape. And even though it ostensibly achieves great things, it results in blinding the sight and lived experiences with implants back. I don't know, maybe we can connect all this with the satellites. Now we are in the Matrix, and you are under the control of Big Brother. Well, I mean, there are many people in my audience who believe that we are moving into the territory of the mark of the beast. So, you know, with all this transhumanism and manipulation of the human body in some ways, it is profoundly disturbing. When initiated with these nanoparticles through these mRNA vaccines and then manipulated with the 5G technology, then you can't really know how well versed they are in that. But just think of all these particles that are in our bodies. You know, a few weeks ago, we conducted an interview with an MK Ultra whistleblower. Most Jamaican have no idea what this is, and yet it's performed on them daily. Most refuse to use my services and not being targeted. Listen to this. You wouldn't believe the emails and messages I got from people who said they were targeted. People want to claim it's Havana syndrome. It's not. They are being targeted. I mean, they talk about complete exhaustion. You know, with directed energy weapons. I mean, we could delve into a whole realm of insanity here. Oh yes, there are things. There is something very evil going on. Yes, there is something really evil. There is definitely the mark of the beast. And people need to be wise and read their Bibles and must not accept this mark of the beast. Don't get these implants. Remove as many electronic devices as possible and immerse yourselves in learning. Everyone really needs to be aware of these things. But you know, the global consumption of micro and nanoplastics is now 6 times higher than in 1990. And scientists have said they can see how cells are being transformed by it, and they have even given it a name because it enters our organs and changes them. It's called plastosis. I was just about to ask you how that is. We talked about the spread of this stuff all around the world. What exactly does it do to our bodies? Is plastic plastosis? What does that do to our bodies? Plastic actually changes our cellular behavior. Our cells no longer function normally. Our cells can no longer transport oxygen and nutrients to them. As I mentioned with the microalgae, blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes are becoming increasingly common. A 2025 study found that those affected by micro and nanoplastics and their arterial tissues had twice the risk of dying from a stroke or heart attack within the next 3 years compared to individuals less affected. The plastic manufacturers are now producing over 500 million tonnage of this stuff a year. We need to stop using it. We need to get rid of as much plastic as we can. We shouldn't buy things that are made of plastic, and hopefully, it won't be produced anymore. But, you know, it's not enough. It's clear that just simply not using these plastics anymore. We need to remove them as much as possible. But it's about looking at this whole situation and thinking there must be a way to remove these plastics, there must be a way to make them less harmful. I have studied all these different diets, and for me, fermented foods are the most important foods we can eat. And it has been shown that fermented foods are one of the main reasons why people in these St. Elizabeth and Portland regions live to 120 to 130 years old. And kimchi, naturally the most commonly used fermented food used in Korea for centuries. But I found that a healthy microbiome actually breaks down these toxins into inner substances. Anyway, important to know is that when you take kimchi, let me tell you, this fermented food helps decompose the toxins into inner substances. But what really excited me was this study. If you have it, most do, is about the BPPPA. That's the most commonly used plastic. It was produced in the 1950s, and you shouldn't use Teflon pans. I mean, my goodness, if you scrape one of those, you actually end up getting into the body. But the foam containers, the plastic going in microwave, drinking out of plastic keep absorbing this BPA by the ton, is so dangerous. The stuff is not good for you. Soup, hot stuff in plastic containers is really bad for you. After discovering kimchi again, I was so excited because kimchi's properties surround all this. This micro and nanoplastics actually surround them and are eliminated from the body through waste. No other can do this. BPA is broken down, surrounding it, and excreted from the body. It just came to me. That is the answer. Because if we keep our microbiome healthy by eating fermented foods and ensuring that the good, healthy bacteria are in the majority in our gut, which God intentionally placed there to protect us from pathogens that exist too, such as molds, yeasts, fungi, and parasites, they cannot invade our body and overpopulate there. And if we have a healthy microbiome, we also need a healthy microbiome on our skin, which is directly connected to our gut, as well as in our brain and heart, when I saw that that actually applies to these things. Because microplastics are not just that dangerous. They also come in different forms, can enter our bodies and destroy them, and are attracted to other toxins. So they carry other pathogens and toxins with them, and they love fat. They migrate into our brain, our liver, our kidneys, into areas of the body where we have lots of fat in our fat cells. I found that study incredibly true, and we can take on that task to control at least part of the body interior and get rid of those microplastics. I was very, very excited about that. Well, I was just about to say, it seems almost impossible to get it out of our bodies when we are surrounded by all this every day. And this study we have here found that our brains are now 99.5% human and 0.5% plastic. That is unbelievable to me. These researchers from the University of Mexico found there has been a 60 or 50% increase since 2016 alone. Compared to the year 2016, as they performed autopsies, that blew me away. Desiree, because that would mean that our brains today are partially human and mostly plastic. But why do you think we have seen this massive increase since 2016? So in just 9 years. Well, because they are simply producing more and more microplastics. It's constant, it's just over 500 million. And considering that people today living on the coast have shown that rates of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, heart and stroke rates, and all those things are just skyrocketing. And now they are actually being diagnosed in our cells. Before, these microplastic particles look normal because they somehow adapt and look normal in our cells. They are endocrine disruptors. They mimic it. We have seen over the years that men develop these female-like breasts, becoming almost more feminine, and so on. This is all estrogen-based. And I wanted to ask you. You talk about men becoming more like women, and I think that's part of it again. This feels like an agenda. It seems like they don't want us to reproduce. They want our fertility to decline. We have seen declining birth rates. You talked about microplastics in underwear. I need to check my underwear later to make sure. But I have 3 kids, white underwear. Yes, but if one removes cotton and turns to these synthetic fabrics. Have we seen a decline in testosterone and fertility in men? And so for the first time, we now have a birth gap with declining birth rates in the United States. Doesn't all of this connect? Oh, it does. To keep pace with the population in America, women, in my opinion, need to have about 2.1 babies. And now it's just down to 1.2. So that's half of what we should have at this rate. And yes, it's just incredible. But the hope that lies here is that we can hardly change anything about our external environment. They bombard us with everything they can, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, everything, now also microplastics. But we can do something. We can take care of our microbiome, we can make better choices. Another study from 2025 dealt with how 2 specific probiotic strains that only occur in kimchi bind these microtoxins and flush them out. So we have now Bacillus pumilus and the 2 others. So we have 3 of those in kimchi. That's the exciting part. Kimchi has these properties not only for us, but it is also antimicrobial. What does that mean? It works against bad bacteria, fungi, yeasts, molds, and parasites in our body. When people eat an average diet, they will find that most of these microplastic particles occur in highly processed foods. Because the more processed these foods are and the more processing pathways they go through, the more plastic particles enter from machines, from packaging, and so on. So those are packed foods, and 70% of Americans' diets consist of 50% ultra-processed foods. So cut those out too. But if you eat these types of foods, you are packed. You make your blood thicker, dirtier, and the parasites love that. The fungi love it. All the yeasts and molds grow in you, trying to kill you and send you back to the earth. That's why God placed them there, but we don't need that now. We need to eat healthy, good bacteria present in these fermented foods which are in kimchi. They work antiviral, against parasites, and against fungi. We made kimchi. That's the solution because I know people in America don't like the taste of kimchi. It's very foreign to them, and even when they start eating it, they won't stick with it. And because we are confronted with this flood of all these outside chemicals, we need to eat that every day. We need to take something that binds and flushes out these substances so that we don't become over-toxic and collapse in a much shorter time than we should. So I can just say, studio editor, Jenny loves kimchi. She has a whole can of radish kimchi every day. She loves the taste and her daughter. She loves it. They almost go to the store every day to buy another can of it, and they love it. Personally, I love the taste of kimchi. I eat it with meat and things like that. My mother-in-law can't stand the taste of kimchi. When you created that, I sang praises of kimchi to everyone who would listen. I take it every day as a supplement. I love kimchi, but I don't eat it every day. It can become expensive if you buy it at Whole Foods or elsewhere. That's remarkable what you achieved with that supplement. So I'm showing it here on the screen. With the coupon code, you get a 10% discount if you go to blackmediaiptv@gmail.com and email your order. The payment link is coming soon. You will see a QR code on the screen. But the best part is if someone WhatsApp your +1 555 732 8703 number, they get 15% off plus free shipping. Here's the number on the screen. +1 555 732 8703. Most people I know love your product. I use it every day. My family and some friends use it every day. Really, it's great stuff. So this is a way to take kimchi if you don't like the taste. Right, that's right. It's gut-friendly, made in the USA, and it's something people can take. Most people will do it. It's just 3 capsules a day, so you can take one at each mealtime or take all 3 at once. But most people will do that. And especially if they understand how drastically our health is deteriorating, and that this is a solution. It's, of course, not the only solution, but it is a solution. You will notice a better digestion and less bloating because all these chemicals and the intrusion into our bodies cause constipation. Diarrhea and bloating make us feel sick and tired all the time. You will notice a significant change that your skin is different, your hair is different because your body flushes out those toxins that simply overwhelm it. And that's what's great about it. It really restores our microbiome everywhere, in our gut, on our skin, in our brain, in our heart, everywhere. So I think everyone should take it preventively, or not just preventively, but to get rid of those toxins that are present, because we can't do anything to prevent all of this. I wish they would stop using plastic bottles. I wish they would stop launching SpaceX rockets that rain down on us. I wish they would stop chemtrails. I wish we could go back to a time when we didn't have 5G and all that stuff. But of course, it's getting worse, not better, and the only way to extend our lives and live a healthier, happier life is to be proactive internally. Right? Yes. And raise our children, and not allow them to be manipulated into thinking, oh, all this AI and all this stuff is so good and advanced. And because there are now studies that show that our brains are shrinking because these children use AI, they don't have to think anymore. Our cognitive abilities are declining. People need to know that, in my opinion, this is not progress. If you don't want to ascend to being a robot and being controlled and living in the matrix, it lowers us down. And our connection to God. So people, let's be honest. Let's say the things that are really true, and let's decide either you want your children and grandchildren to grow up in the matrix and be robots, or do you want to try to steer them in the other direction? Well, Desiree, thank you very much. I did see your other podcast on the subject. I will insert a link to your website in the description below. blackmediaiptv@gmail.com. If anyone wants to join and start taking Desiree, I can only highly recommend it. I'm a big advocate for it. I wouldn't have Desiree the show to talk about if I didn't believe in it. That's something I do every day. We will have a link in the description below. And yes, my thanks go to you, Desiree, for enlightening us all about this. Well, I really appreciate that and keep up the great work you're doing. Thank you very much, and everyone, pray out there. Let's pray and put God back in the center, and maybe, maybe we can then get rid of the bad guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this just as interesting as we did. See you in the next video. Amen. blackmediaiptv@gmail.com